All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream. I am your host, Jeff Freeman, and right over here, I have my co-host, Jack Campbell. Jack, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Jeff. A little rainy, a little humid, but we're making it happen.
Yeah, I know. I was going to kind of warn everybody if for some reason, all of a sudden the screen goes, frozen, and I'm like, with some weird look on my face, it's because a lightning strike or something took the power out, and and I had no power at the moment. So there has been thunderstorms moving through here today, so it's a likelihood that it could happen. We'll see. Hopefully not. Hope you guys are all doing well tonight. Let's see. Wanda's here with us tonight. Janet's out there. Hi, Janet. How you doing? And of course, we have Linda and Jan working very hard out in the chat, as they always are. We really greatly appreciate all the work they do. My goodness. I'll tell you what, the group has been growing like in leaps and bounds. I think we're over 7,000 now members for the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond Facebook group, which just blows my mind. I'm completely blown away.
From the middle of November till now, it's just unbelievable.
I know, right? Exactly. It's just been
Pam,
crazy.
good to see you.
Yep, Pam, Anne Marie. Hi, Anne Marie. How you doing? Pam is with us. All right, let me see. I got to bring the chat up over here. I will have the phone on tonight too, as well. Oh, we got B Davis is out on the YouTube side. Hi, how you doing? Glad you're here. Let's see. Let's bring that up real quick. I'll bring the phone number up. There's the phone number. And we're going to be talking on, as we do right now on the Wednesday night show. We're doing the Beyond Oak Island. We're doing it Beyond, I should say. You can leave it. Rephrase that. We're doing Beyond, which is where we venture out and do a little bit, talk about a little bit other, a few other things other than Oak Island. Not to say that there isn't good things going on with Oak Island right now, which there are. We know Rick's on the island, which is really cool. We got word of that yesterday, I believe, that he's on. Was it yesterday or the day before that he's on the island?
They've been filming for a couple of weeks. We found out.
Yeah, he went through quarantine, did all that, so he's there and everything. So that's good. Oh, Wayne Murphy's here. Hi, Wayne. How you doing? So it's funny because I was talking with someone who's become a good friend of mine. And we were discussing a little bit of talking about some other stuff, Oak Island related, kind of Templar related type stuff. And she had said, I'm sorry I don't come out to your show for Skinwalker Ranch because that show just scares me. I chuckled a little bit, but I was like, there are some strange things happening at Skinwalker Ranch and the Uintah Basin. And I could see where it does. I could see where it does scare people. There are some.
It seems to be the state of Utah, if you stop and think about it.
Yep. And, I was watching, there's another show I was watching. It's called the Blind Frog Ranch, the Mystery of Blind Frog Ranch. And I thought, why do they call it that? Well, I finally found out why they call it that. But it's only about 20 miles from Skinwalker Ranch, right? And so they're looking for underground caverns. They're looking for gold and stuff like that. But they talk about some of the same things happening over there. The drill rig, the gauges going nuts and things powering down all of a sudden, the equipment malfunctions and things that happen. And so it's not concentrated to just Skinwalker Ranch. It's that entire Uintah Basin that's having those weird things going on. It gave me bad dreams one night. What's that? Something gave you bad dreams? That was Jan said that.
Jan said that, yeah.
Yeah, what was that? So, let's see. So anyway, getting on with the show, man. I tell you what, this was a good one. I really enjoyed. This was season 2, episode number 8, Shocking Revelations. I love to be the person that comes up with these names for the shows. Oh, Skinwalker Ranch gave her bad dreams one night. I tell you, it's not only the Skinwalker talk, but I mean, just all the, what did Brandon, a few will call it strange. I call it weirdness. He called it strange. No, he called it weirdness. I think it was something like that. He said it on the show last night. He actually said it. And I thought it was kind of funny because he kind of made up a word there, but it's true. It's absolutely true.
Did you ever wonder, once he's gotten into this, I wonder if you ever wondered, why did I buy this?
Why did I? Yeah. I think, well, I would have to think it's because he wants answers just as much as anyone else does.
Right.
And
I think he's like a Rick and Marty Lagina in that regard.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, uh, yeah, he wants to get some answers out of what's happening here because there is some strangeness happening in this whole area. It is just, these anomalies. And now last night we found out, right away that there was, well, we'll get into it, talking about electricity in the ground. And why is that possible? And I think it might relate to um, something that happened there years and years ago. And I'll talk about that a little bit as we go along here. But something from the last week's show that I wanted to touch on, the items that they found when they drilled down there in the triangle area. And they brought up some of the stuff that was in the very bottom that they said might be gilsonite right off the bat. And it turns out it wasn't. And then they had a chunk of it and they had it analyzed, and it came up with all these different minerals. And then I think Travis had made the comment that if you took and refined they broke it down and refined all the stuff that we're finding in the ground, you could build an airplane out of it. And that was pretty miraculous right there, that all the elements needed to build an airplane or some kind of sophisticated piece of equipment like that are right there at present. And that's just crazy. But he also said something. He called it the barium and stratum. I think it's pronounced stratum. I think it's STATUM, stratum. Radioactive isotopes. Those are radioactive isotopes, and that's significant of what's going on here with that in the ground out there. And he said something about if you cooled it down, if you could cool it down enough, like they do with carbon, I believe it is, they can come up with they can create a superconductor. He said it would be conductive. That's really interesting. And I think, what I was kind of thinking about, and I think somebody else had mentioned this too in one of the other groups. But I was thinking that, okay, so you've got the Uintah Basin and it's a dish, right? It's like a dish. You're down there in the center of it. And you look all around the outside, and you're looking up. Basically, everywhere you look, you're looking up. And so it's like a satellite dish laying in there, right? Okay. What's going to create something like that? There's a couple of different things that could create a bowl like that. But I'm thinking about an impact, a meteorite hitting the ground. Now, if a particular meteorite or meteor hit the ground there, millions of years ago, whenever, and created this bowl, this hole in the ground that eventually started filling in, it's going to create like a dish, right? But if that meteor was containing all these different minerals and stuff like what they found, then it would be embedded down deep in the ground, right? And then covered up with dirt over years, over the millions of years. But you would still have that bowl shape. So I don't know, just one of those, you guys know that I come up with these weird little ideas sometimes about stuff like that. But doesn't it kind of make sense a little bit? A meteorite hitting the ground would create a crater. And then millions of years going by, it would slowly but surely fill up with dirt and, and stuff. And it wouldn't be as deep anymore. Like the one out in Arizona.
And they have found craters with stuff like that in there before already.
Right. And if it broke apart, it would leave behind all this substance that came from space that would then be found, and it could create all this weirdness that's going on out there. I don't know. Just one of those ideas that I thought about. Yeah, I do. Barb Bright said, I like the meteor theory. And I got thinking about it. What's going to create a basin? Now, there might be many things that would create a basin like that dish, but well, Barb said, I thought you were gonna say it was a UFO. Well, but as we go along tonight and talking about this, I that will come into play, and it had to do with exactly what Thomas Winterton said on the show last night. And it's something that I've been thinking about that as well. And then he said it, and I went right to the TV. I said, yes, Thomas, that's exactly what I was thinking. There I am yelling at my TV. Yeah, as big as the meteor that wiped out the dinosaurs. Yeah, Janet, you're right. Because that would have been, you talk about how big of an area the Uintah Basin is, right? And it's going to be a large impact. So whatever hit the ground there, if that's the case, would have created quite an impact. Yep.
Volcanics. Anne Marie said volcanic also. That could very well be also.
Yeah,
I was right. There were like 5 different calamities, and a couple of them were volcanoes.
Right. That's what I say. There's several different things that could cause something like that, like the basin. But, and again, we don't know what. But I did look, if you look at, probable, I think I actually went out and Googled it, and I said, okay, what are some of the areas where there are known impact craters over the years? And you look at the moon, you see all the impact craters on the moon. You look at all the other moons and whatnot, you see all the impact craters. The Earth was bombarded with those things, those with meteors over its life. Okay, so but many of them have just filled back up, and we don't really recognize them anymore. You look at the the one that they say killed the dinosaurs was down there in the Yucatan. No, what's down in Mexico?
Mexico.
Right there at the Gulf of Mexico, where you see Mexico, where it comes up and it makes the peninsula that comes up right there. Yucatan Peninsula, is that what that is? I'm at a loss for a word all of a sudden. But anyway, so but they do leave a crater in the ground, which would eventually get filled up, and you wouldn't notice it as much anymore over the years. So anyway, something that occurred to me, and I thought, and it left behind all those materials from the impact that are materials maybe they're finding now. So, and if it left behind radioactive stuff, that could be playing havoc with all this stuff, all these but we'll get to that as we go along. Anyway. All right. So, shocking revelations. I love the name of this one, and it has so much to do with what they were doing last night, obviously. That's why they picked the names like this. But right off the bat, we have Thomas, and we got what? Thomas, Travis, Dragon, and Erik are heading out to Homestead too, to take a look. And as I'm going to get my visuals going here. I got to look over and see. Wonder what it was made. That's what made the Gulf of Mexico. I think so. I think you're right, Juan. I think that is what made the Gulf of Mexico. It was an impact. Yep. Let's see. How many times? Okay. So let me get my visuals going here. I love my visuals. It kind of helps me tell the story. Well, and all I'm doing is recapping last night's show, which you all saw, but it's kind of fun. And this is why, and don't forget, folks, this is why we do this, is so that we can interact together about the show last night or about other episodes. So feel free to jump out there in the chat, talk about whatever, bring up whatever you want to talk about. If I miss something, please tell me about what I missed, or if I've got something wrong. I'm not an expert on this stuff. You guys know that. You guys know I am not an expert on this. So if you notice that I missed something, or if I got something wrong, please tell me about it and let's talk about it. Bring it up. That's what this is for. That's why we do this.
We do it for all of our show. We do it for every show we cover. Like that.
Exactly. That stands for any show that I talk about. I'm not an expert. I am a fan who loves to talk about it. So, and I love to talk about it with all the friends who show up. So, also, I just wanted to say real quick too about YouTube. If you're out there on the YouTube side, please click on that subscribe button for us. It really helps us out. We're doing pretty good with the subscriptions, but we certainly need a few more, and we'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel. And if you want to get notified when we come out with new material, then you click on the notification bell. It'll send you a little notice saying that, J-Free 906 has gone live or something like that, and you'll know right away when I put up new material on there. So please click on that subscribe button for us. It helps out. a lot. And we are on Patreon, JFree906. We're out on Vimeo, JFree906, all those places. And we're thinking about doing some podcast, audio only podcast at some point too. But then you won't get to see my visuals. So really, what's it? But anyway, we're working on that as well. So anyway, all right, getting to the show. Let's go ahead and I'm going to bring up my. There we go. All right, so starting off right off the bat with Homestead 2, which I think is one of the creepiest places on the face of the earth. Quite honestly, especially at night, some of the pictures of that place at night are pretty creepy.
Things that they saw there this year, they are creepy.
Yeah.
They are creepy. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yep. So yeah, starting off Homestead 2, and then they took a little look at the anomaly that they got Homestead 2 picked out there, and in the Triangle area, and they were talking about that spot out there in Homestead 2 that they were concerned about. But they decided to go out, and they went out and they wanted to conduct a test. Now, again, folks, I am not an expert when it comes to this stuff. So if any of you out there are, please jump into the chat and help me with this a little bit, because there's some of this I don't quite completely understand. Now, they went out there to Homestead 2, and here's this little artist rendition of what they were doing. They went out and they used the actual well. There was some pipes on top of the well, and they hooked onto that, and then they drove a rod in the ground about 60 feet away, right? And then they connected half of they took a battery. I got another picture here.
12-volt battery.
Yeah, they took a 12-volt battery and a multimeter, and they ran, as you can see here, they hooked into the battery, and they went over to the well. Then they hooked over to the other side of the battery through the multimeter, and then over to that rod that was 60 feet away. Okay. And then they juiced it up. They wanted to see what was going on. Hi, Carol. How you doing? I'm glad you're here. So they went out and they juiced up the battery, and they wanted to see, basically they're doing a test to find out how well the ground conducts electricity, as if it were a wire running underground all the way back over to that rod that they drove in 60 feet away. Now, they got some interesting results from this. And this is again that artist rendition showing you basically what's happening under the ground. So here you got the well over here on this side, and that's one leg of the battery connection. Okay, so from the battery over to here, and then on this side, the battery through the multimeter all the way over to this rod, that's driven in the ground. And then the ground is completing the connection. Okay. Now, when they fired that battery up, right off the bat, they're getting about a third of an amp showing up. And then it varied. It was about you see right there, 0.289. It was varying about 0.27. 0.29, right around that. That's about a third of an amp. Okay. Now, I was trying my best to look out on the internet to find out just how much do you expect to see in a given area. And I couldn't get that answer. Now, I know that Travis had said something on there, if I remember, and I didn't write this down. Maybe Jan did. Jan did her wonderful synopsis for us again. And thank you so much for that, Jan, because it helps us out a lot. Let's see. I don't see in here, but I thought he said something about the
3 million or something along that.
Yeah, he was talking about, yes, millions or billions or something like that. Like, so that would be like a 0.00000003 or something like that, right? If you're talking about single digits like one. Okay, I don't know. But I thought he was talking about like a million, a point, a millionth of, yeah. So it was interesting to have this much, and they were just amazed by that. But again, this is that part where I'm telling you guys, I'm not an expert in this, and I don't know what you should expect to see. Now, I know that farmers are very concerned about soil conductivity, electrical conductivity in the ground, because it does affect how plants grow. So they have a way of going out and testing it. Now, I don't know, again, I don't know what kind of readings that they say, oh, that's too high. We need to bring it down a little bit, or no, it's too low, or whatever, but it does affect how plants grow. So their farmers are very concerned about that. And they have usually a little test meter. They can go out and test it in the ground.
It'd be interesting. I'd like to know how they get it to go down. I mean,
I don't know, but you'd have to mix something else into the soil, I would think. You'd have to incorporate another type of some sort of a chemical or something into the dirt, because we know that salt helps to create that conductivity. Now, if you had pure water would not conduct electricity through it, but water with salt in it, even tap water, regular tap water or whatever, has enough salt in it to make it conduct electricity through it, so you can get zapped. That's why you talk about, you don't want to, people curling their hair, or you don't iron while you're in the bathtub, right? So don't drop the iron in the bathtub. You're going to electrocute yourself, because it will conduct electricity. So enough salt, the more the salt, the more it will conduct electricity through the water, right? So I know that, but I don't know, again, going back to that, I don't know how much. Oh, what do we got here? I knew Linda would be on this. Let's see. What did she say here? Optimal EC levels in the soil would range from 110 to 570 millisiemens per meter. Okay, so that's got to be terribly low. I don't know. And again, I'm not sure how low. Is that 0.000? What do you got there? I don't know. Find out what that 110 to 570 millisiemens per meter. Find out what that would be in, like, on that multimeter for me, so I can understand it better. I'm sorry, but that that's got to be, like I said, 0.00000 or something, right? And they're getting a third of an amp. That's miraculous. I mean, that's just crazy. They should not be getting that much. Well, what does that tell you? That tells you that there's something in the soil that's helping the soil to conduct electricity to come back through to the other side and go through that multimeter.
Some kind of magnetic field or whatever.
Exactly. There's something in there that's creating that.
And it's not small.
No, it has to be a high enough concentration of whatever it is that's going to be able to get that much of a reading. It's just not normal. And again, I go back to that whole thing of a meteor strike. They haven't talked about that, so maybe I'm completely off base. Another very interesting part of this was when they were conducting this test out there. They were getting ready to go over. Erik wanted to see if he could hook up a flashlight. He had a flashlight specially rigged up with wires out of it, and he wanted to be able to take those and hook them up to that wire and see if there was enough amperage or voltage and amperage coming through that wire to light that flashlight up, right? So while he was doing that, Thomas was down and getting ready to unhook the wire, because they're going to use it to run, they're going to run the power through that light, flashlight with it. And when he did, they heard a beep. Okay. And immediately they thought it was the multimeter, or Travis did. And so did Thomas. But Erik knew right away what it was, because it was hanging on his hip, which was his lightning detector. Now, we have sold those before. We sell those where I work, a safety company. We sell those things, and they pick up lightning strikes in the area. So if you've got one on, even if the lightning strike is far enough away where you can barely hear it, it could still register on that thing, because it's ionizing the air and it's picking that up. So by disconnecting that wire, it set off his lightning detector. And it was repeatable. It wasn't just a freak occurrence. Every time
they did it 2 or 3 times just to make sure that, and that was coming from underground, not from the air. Yeah. And so that's pretty crazy right there. And I love the fact that he wears that thing around, because that's a great tool to have with you, because every time something weird happens, that thing goes off. And it did. It set off his meter and his lightning detector. I should have that when I play golf.
Lightning detector?
Yeah.
Yeah. Caddyshack. Ah.
Oh yeah.
So that's pretty crazy right there. Why did it do that? It should not have done that. Now, granted, I don't wear a lightning detector and then go out and unhook a battery on a car just to see if it sets it off. Maybe I'll try that someday. I'll get one from work and I'll go and mess around with the battery on my car and disconnect it and see if it sets it off. But I'm pretty sure it's not going to. But that's pretty crazy right there. So once they got through that, being amazed by that happening, then there's the lightning detector on his pocket. Yeah, too many questions and too few answers. Yes, that's very true.
Jan says when you start talking about lightning instead of thunder and lightning here, freaky.
Who said that?
Janet,
Janet. Yeah, I know, and I haven't heard any in here in a little bit now. It's been about 20 minutes, and I haven't heard any lightning happening here yet. But or thunder, I should say. You don't hear the lightning. Little faux pas there, but anyway, so it could happen. I want to see the Awoken one. Hi, I'm glad you're here. He said, out of curiosity, Skinwalker Ranch crawling with 24-hour HD cameras, night vision, or any other cameras that can capture anything unusual going on. I'm pretty sure, yes. I'm pretty sure they have 24/7 cameras running in that place. And I know they do at least most of the time, because as we go through the show tonight, or the recap of last night's show, and we get down to the end, that was some of that stuff they were talking about. What they captured on camera was actually cameras that were on Travis's trailer while he was gone, and they were running. So yes, I would say that yes, they probably are running 24/7. Somebody else can correct me if I'm wrong with that. And so let's see. One of the things that I also wanted to mention, well, let me finish with my thought here on this. So the lightning detector hanging there on his pocket, and you can see the flashlight he's holding behind him and the wires that are hooked up to it. And he's getting ready to try that. So once they got over this, figuring out what was going on. Yeah. Linda said, I think Erik Bard has camera access 24/7. I think you're right.
I think they do just for security purposes. At least around a perimeter, you would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Security purposes. You're right. They do definitely have them on, because you got to keep people out of there. I mean, there's people that are going to go there and try to get on the ranch, and they shouldn't. That's private property, and it's completely, fenced off and stuff. So, so there's Eric, and I'm sorry, Thomas, and he's down there working at it, and that's just showing where he was disconnecting and connecting that copper wire there. And it was setting off the lightning detector. And then they hooked up the flashlight, and bam, it lights up. And there's enough juice passing through the ground that lights up his flashlight. Now, it might not have been as bright as that flashlight could go, but by golly, it was enough to light it up. And that's just crazy. That's just absolutely crazy.
And that's coming from the ground.
And that's coming through the ground. Now, I can run that test outside at my house, and I might try that one day, but I can almost guarantee it's not going to light up a flashlight going through 60 feet of ground at my house. I don't know. So that's just pretty crazy right there. Okay. The spoken one says, I do not watch the show. And I am a newbie to whatever is going on at Skinwalker Ranch, hence the inquisitiveness. No, absolutely. Ask those questions, because that's what we're here for. That's why we're doing this. Because I want to, and I love when you guys ask questions, because if I can't answer it, which happens quite often, one of the other folks that watch the show can. And we've got a lot of wonderful experts out there in different fields that can answer questions that I certainly cannot. So
we all learn something coming out.
Exactly. That's what this is all about, to learn something and enjoy, the show that we like to watch here. So, but yeah, so one of the things about lighting up that flashlight, and that pretty much ended that segment. But here's something that, and I was thinking about tagging Thomas on this, because in Thomas Winterton, by the way, in case you guys haven't heard me already talk about it 100 times, Thomas Winterton, it will be on the show. We've invited him to come on the show. It's going to be on Saturday the 10th at 2:00, July 10th, Saturday at 10 o'clock. Thomas Winterton is coming on the show here, and we're going to talk. We were hoping that we would get him after the season ended, and I think we missed it by a week because had a week off over, I think it was Memorial Weekend. They had a week off, and so we're going to miss it by a week. We wanted him after the show was done so he could talk about the entire season, but because of his NDA, but it looks like we missed it by a little bit. We're going to miss the season finale, but it won't have aired yet. So, but anyway, Thomas is going to be on the show, and I wanted to ask him about something, and he may know. I'm going to tag him right now just to see, because I'm going to tag him in the chat just to see if he happens to be. He might be busy at the ranch right now doing something, but let's see. I'm going to bear with me a second while I type this.
You think about all the get that it takes a battery to light a flashlight. Oh, something from the ground, Jeff.
Yep. Was disconnected. Now, something that I thought, and when they get into the room there with Brandon, Brandon Fugel, when he flies out and they get into the room with him and they start having a bit of a discussion. I thought I heard Travis say that even after they disconnected the battery from sending juice through the ground on this experiment that they're doing right here, that the flashlight stayed lit. Now, I may be wrong about that because he wasn't clear about what he said. He said something about even after we disconnected it. I think that's all he really said. And because of the video editing, I didn't get the whole part of it. I tried to hear it a couple of times, but he did say even after it was disconnected, I think was his actual words. Was he talking about that flashlight? Because he was talking about, and during that portion, he was talking about the fact that the ground may actually work as a battery to store up power. And if that's the case, then was he talking about it was still lighting the flashlight after they took the juice away from the battery? I don't know. And maybe Thomas can answer that question for us. I don't know if he would, if he is around to catch that, maybe jump on here. And then if he does, we can jump on and ask him that question. But anyway, so that was just something that I thought I heard, and I wasn't really sure exactly what he was talking about. And I really wanted to get an explanation on that if I could. B. Davis, a radio signal. Let's see what is. Let me jump over here real quick. Oh, and by the way, Linda did say that I did catch you say that, Linda, that the 1 millisiemens is equal to 1,000 micro ohms. Okay. Oh, that was Jan. I'm sorry, Jan. Jan said that. And Linda said 1,000 millisiemens is equal to 1 Siemens. Okay, but I still don't understand how far down the on the multimeter is that. I'm not sure. Let's see. B. Davis said a radio signal could have. Let's see. Let me bring that up here. A radio signal could also have enough wattage to light a light bulb. Makes you wonder if the element or underground is absorbing some radio signals. Good point.
Could be.
Yep, very good point. Amplified, not absorbed. Okay, so amplified some radio signals. And yes, well, in a way, it did when they had the big Tesla coil going, I think. Does that kind of relate to what you're talking about there, B. Davis? Because when they fired that up, we'll get to that as we go along here. When they had the big Tesla coil going, that was pretty crazy thing going on there as well. Barb says I went back and binge watched all of season 1 again. Let's see. Oh, there it went. It was jumping around. I went back and binge watched all of season 1 again. There's too much information, or so much information. It's worth it to rewatch each episode at least twice. I did the same thing. When I did that recap of season 1, I went back and watched all of it again and put that recap together. Yeah. And I'm telling you, it was just crazy. And the more you watch it, the more I got into it, because I thought, man, there's really some craziness, strangeness going on out here. Weirdness happening out here at this ranch. So yeah, you're exactly right. Let's see. Like the just keeps getting. Yeah, let's see. Maybe all of the black dirt they dug up is like the inside of a battery and just keeps getting charged by activity on the ranch. Could be. You could be right. Yeah, I'm not really sure. B. Davis says, I'm not really sure how the Tesla coil works. I do know it creates a magnetic field. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
They use it to build up. It builds up electricity so much that at some point it has to discharge. And that's what you're seeing with the lightning coming off the top of it. It builds up electricity through that coil. That coil is the pole in the center. It's building up electricity through that coil. And then it gets up to the top, and then it has to discharge someplace. And that's when you're seeing the lightning off there. And if you notice, they drove a rod in the ground. I don't know how my pictures are of that, but they drove a rod in the ground. You see it arcing right into that rod, and that's putting the electricity now into the ground. So, yeah, how it obtains all that, I don't know, but it's really cool to watch. It's certainly and Tesla, man. I tell you, we could do a whole show. We could do several shows just on Nikola Tesla. That man was something else.
Way ahead of his time.
Yeah. Yeah. Barb says high iron content in the soil. Iron is highly conductive. Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Or charged the water underneath. Yeah. Pat Buchanan. Yeah. Yes, and it can and also moving water underground. Moving water also creates static or friction and creates its own electricity in a way. Yep. I would be afraid to stand. Yeah, Janice says I'd be afraid to stand next to a Tesla coil.
I would be too.
What was this here? Dave said, I remember them saying the ground test had silicone. And that's a major component of semiconductors. Yep. Hello from Nova Scotia. Hi, Alessandra. How you doing? Glad to see you here. We're talking that weird show.
Yeah.
Skinwalker Ranch.
Hello, Alexandra.
Yep. So, but anyway, wasn't that was just so cool that flashlight was able to light up from the electricity going through the ground. That's just 60 feet of ground acting as a wire, and it lit that thing right up. That's just amazing to me. So anyway, they get both and they decide, you know what, we've got a really crazy set of things going on here, circumstances, some test results. We need to bring Brandon out to the ranch and have a discussion with him and show him what we've come across. So he flies out to the ranch, and then they get him inside the command center there so they can talk to him, and they're explaining to him the test that they just did with the battery and running the current through the ground and what that resulted in. And then they explain to him how they want to proceed to step it up a huge step and try another experiment, which is the bringing out of the Tesla coils onto the ranch and running some. And, you know, and it is funny that, you know, well, of course, he's a physicist. You know, Travis he's a rocket scientist. And so, you know, you bring out, you know, he's got friends and all this guy say, he's like, oh yeah, I got a friend. I know he's got some Tesla coils. Wouldn't that be cool to have a friend that just, you know, friends like he has, he brings these guys out, you know, all these different fields. And he's like, yeah, let me call up a guy. Hey, can you bring your Tesla coil out? Sure. Come on. How cool is that? Right. So, but something else too. I just lost that thought. There was something else too that it'll come back to me. Travis was talking about, it was when he was talking about the Tesla coil. He was referencing something about the Tesla coil and about the going through the conductivity through the ground. Well, you know what? I'm going to wait till I get to that. But he was talking about, he said something interesting that I'll bring up here that led me to believe that maybe they have some further information that we don't know about yet. I'll hold that thought until I get to this point on the show here.
The one thing he always says is that for every action there's a reaction at Skinwalker.
Yes, for sure. And that's what does Thomas say about that? Is the ranch reacting?
Yeah.
The ranch answering to something you've done? Mm-hmm. The ranch answers, and it usually does. I thought that was so cool on last week's show when they had that drill in the ground and it was drilling down. They were 70, 80 feet in the ground. And all of a sudden, not everybody's, but a couple of the compasses they had pointed right to it.
And they were far away in a couple of them.
And they were far enough away where it still did it. And they went on that observation point that's on the south end.
It was the observation point that got me, is that they were pretty far away.
And they were looking at the magnetic field that was being generated by the drill. And the drill was drilling down into that black soil or that black rock, whatever it is. Oh, Janet said, by the way, your background. Yeah, I kind of like that. Jan got this one. She sent this one to me, the background here. This is actually the Skinwalker Ridge right there on the ranch. I thought that was pretty cool. So thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been playing around with different backgrounds just to see, come up with something, change it up a little bit, So anyway, they bring out Brandon. They're talking to Brandon about, some further testing that they would like to do. And Brandon's like, be very, very careful because you could, you're not sure exactly what you're going to create here or what you're going to cause. Cause and effect. What's the effect going to be from what you're, or what you're doing here? You may not be ready for the kickback, the ranch's answer, the ranch's response to what you're doing. You may not be ready for. And they are as much as they are ready as much as they can be. But something that was very interesting that Thomas said, and even Dragon had mentioned it too, is that he trusts these guys. The group, they've worked together for 2 years, now, and they trust each other. They know what they're doing, and they really do. They've got enough brain power in that room with the 4 of those people right there, all 4 of them. And you're talking Dragon and Thomas, all of them. There's enough brain power in that room. They know what they're doing. And I mean, could something go wrong? Sure. Yeah, something could go wrong. Why not? I mean, absolutely.
And we've seen that on other shows with other groups. So
exactly. Wrong. But I mean, if you're going to test something like this stuff, who would you rather be around? I'd rather be around these 4 guys right here, to be honest with you. Because, they're all, they got a lot of brain power going on right there. So that's really, they are. Thank you, Barb. You're exactly right. They are a great team and they work well together. So,
and it took a year. It really took about a year, the first year, to really get them all on the same page.
Yeah, it did. But they gelled well together, and I think that they are a great team. Something else that did you guys catch this? What Travis said on the show last night when they were getting ready to fire up the Tesla coil, and he said, "If it opens up a portal, I'm going in." Did you catch that? I've told people over the years that if the aliens came down and he said, "Hey, you want to go for a ride?" I'd be like, "I'm in. Can I grab my coat? Is it cold?" Yeah. But I'm going. I'm going. It was funny because he said, "Did you guys catch that?" He's like, "I'm going." Yeah. Pat heard it. Yeah. Pat Buchanan. So, yep, I'm going. That was hilarious. I had to laugh, right off the bat, because that was pretty cool. So then they showed a little segment on Tesla, Nikola Tesla, and some of his, Barb said, I love when he said that. Oh, Wanda said that too. Yeah, that's really cool. But this guy had so much genius, Tesla, and he one of the experiments that things he was working on was being able to transmit electricity wirelessly underground and through the air. And they were showing some examples of that on the show.
And when he died, the government took most of it away.
Yeah, and then when he died, most of all his research, or a lot of his research, disappeared. Where'd it go? Yeah, well, we know where it went. And we may never ever see it again, but we know where it went. But he was the inventor of AC, alternating current. So, or the discoverer, I should say, of alternating current. And so, and he learned how to harness it. But where would we be today? They decided, no, we want to be able to charge for electricity and going around the world. So, let's make money on it. And he wanted to be able to provide power to people for free. You'd have to buy the equipment to be able to receive it. But still, I mean, You wouldn't be paying the exorbitant prices we do to keep the air conditioning on right now, right?
Yeah. And Marina said I go with Travis just to see what's on the other side.
Yeah, I know. I would too. I'd be very tempted. You'd think about it for about a half a second. It's like, you're going, I'm going with you. All right, let's go. Let's do it. Let's go in together. If it's opening a portal, I'm going in. You never know what all of a sudden you're in the land of the lost. Remember that show from, boy, I just aged myself, didn't I?
You make sure, Jeff.
Land of the lost. So they bring out Cameron Prince, Tesla coil engineer. And this is a friend of Travis, obviously, because he mentioned it on the show. But man, what would it be like to know this guy right here, right? Tesla coil engineer. I'd love to meet this guy. Maybe we could reach out to him, have him come on the show sometime. Wouldn't that be cool? So, they showed it. They said, open up the van. Let's see what you got in there. So he did. He opened it up. And it doesn't look like that's much. It's like a big, probably a big styrofoam ring that's wrapped.
It's like a donut on top of it.
Yeah, it's a big styrofoam donut. I don't know what's inside there. I was thinking of styrofoam or something wrapped in this conductive wrapping aluminum. I don't know what it is wrapping around that thing. But anyway, he's got
all Walker just said it was Land of the Lost. It's a show we were thinking of.
Yeah. Yep, the Land of the Lost. You might step into the land, all of a sudden there's dinosaurs. You're like, wait a minute. Is that portal still open? Can we go back in there? Let's choose another, and let's close it and open up another one. See if we can go somewhere, better than where the dinosaurs are. I digress. Sorry. Great Scott. Houston, Texas, Dave. Great Scott, donut time machine van. Anyway, he's got all of his toys in here. And this was a picture they showed of the Tesla coil from Nikola Tesla's time, I guess. And this was a artist rendition of how they work. And this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, how it starts to build up the energy down below. It's wrapped in copper. Yeah, wrapped in copper. And the electricity starts to build and build and build. And it works its way up to this termination point. And then at that termination point, once it builds up enough, it has to discharge somewhere, which is the same thing that happens with lightning. Lightning, you get all that friction of clouds moving back and forth and rubbing against each other. Pretty soon they build up enough electricity, they have to discharge. That discharge is what you're seeing in the lightning flash. I think I got that right. I hope I got that right. But it's kind of the same thing, kind of the same principle, but it's building up all this electricity and then it needs to discharge. And that's when you're seeing the electricity shooting out from the top of it or wherever. Yeah, you're right. It was a very interesting episode last night. That's why I was looking forward to talking about this one. And once I saw the preview from last week, yeah, you're right. The Awoken One says Tesla should have succeeded. Sadly, big business backed Edison for the win. You're right. I know that's an interesting story. If anybody has not seen that or watched that, there's a couple of different documentaries about Tesla and how that fight between him and Edison took place, and pretty interesting stuff. And I really wish Nikola Tesla would have won that fight, but whatever. They wanted to make money. Yes, Barb, I think you're right. I think I have seen these at some of the different science museums have a Tesla coil to some degree. Yep. So anyway, they head on out to, they get the van, they load it up or get out and they head out to the triangle area. And that's where Travis was saying this is the best place to do it, because not only because of the conductivity in the ground and the stuff they found there, but also because the lack of trees and vegetation to catch on something on fire with all that electricity going around. And that pipe, I think this right over here, if you can barely see that, I know if you're watching on an iPad or an iPhone or something, you could probably barely see this, but that's that drill hole that's a well they dug with the drill hole right here. And I think they used part of that to tap into. I saw some wires hooked to the side of it, I think, at the nighttime shots. So they get out there, they get all the equipment set up. There's the whole group of them getting ready to set everything up and explaining things there a little bit. There's a nighttime shot of everything as they're getting ready to go. They've got that. Oh, I wanted to show that one truck. that's pulling the generator. Look at this size of that generator out there. That I think that's Thomas pulling that thing out. Do you see the size of that thing that they're dragging out there?
Whenever you see them setting up equipment, it looks like cable after cable of computers and everything else.
Yeah, and they got that big transformer and everything. They got the huge transformer sitting out there. I would just love to go out and just stand around and watch, some of the experimentation that these guys are doing. It's fantastic.
The amount of time they need to set it up and everything else has to be phenomenal.
Yep. So they get Cameron to fire up the smaller ones. He had a couple smaller ones, so he goes out there to fire those up. And the guys are standing around with fluorescent bulbs to see what would happen. And you look at them; they buried some in the ground. They got them just buried in the ground. They're lighting up. Look at that. I mean, that would be so cool. But they're like, holding on to lightsabers at that point. Everything's lighting up, and they did see on the spectrum analyzer, they did see the what their output was. And Travis had asked, what did we get for a bounce back, an answer back from the ground or from anything? Did we get anything coming back? And so the answer was no. We did get the indication of what was being sent out by the coils, the smaller coils, but nothing coming back, nothing bouncing back. So that was, so they figured, okay, now we got to up the ante. So I'm just looking at some of the chat. Tesla won in the end. Just didn't get to see. Yeah, you're right. His accomplishments. Yep, you're exactly right. I'm watching. What's this? I'm watching on the TV via YouTube and chatting. Oh, okay. So if you're watching on the TV, then you can see some of the screens better. If you got the bigger screen, then. Yep. When the group, what does it say here? When the group were all holding the fluorescent tubes, I held my breath. It was an awesome when the bulbs lit up. Yeah, it was. Even the little bulb. I think he had a little LED bulb that he had hooked up there, and it was lighting. I think that was with the big Tesla coil. It was lighting up.
See, now that would kind of freak me out a little bit. Be holding something and all of a sudden it lights up.
I know, because I would be afraid. You're right. Yeah, good point, Jack. Because I'd be afraid that one of these little lightning arcs would actually come over and go down through that bulb. Yeah, because I'm holding that bulb and go down through that bulb and zap me. Yeah. And you're standing on the ground, so you're well grounded. So yeah, I'd be a little concerned about that too. I think you're right, but it'd still be fun, wouldn't it?
I'd still do it. I mean.
Well, Cameron's the expert, so if he says, yeah, it'll be fine, and okay, all right, but how far away do I need to be? Because I'm going to stand at the extreme of that.
I'm not standing next to you, in other words, at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I wonder how Tesla would feel about a car named after him. I don't know. So anyway, so that was the test they did with the smaller one, and it was kicking up the spectrum analyzer and all of that, but not enough to get any kind of response back from the ground or from the air or from anything that they were looking for. So they did get a signal out, but nothing back from the ground. So it was time to up the ante. That's where he's shown right here. This was just picking up from what the small Tesla coils were putting out through the air, and they did pick it up right here, but nothing significant, and a bounce back that they were hoping to find. So they decided, and here's looking at the spectrum analyzer. Oh no, actually this isn't the spectral analyzer. This is random. I don't know if this is, no, it's RTL, but I forget. This is looking at the frequencies. This is looking at radio frequencies. And they did not get any kind of an indication of anything from that. Just looking at just barely over ground, or they call it the floor, which is just basic noise floor, which is the normal energy interference you would expect to see from, and this is what he was describing it, you would expect to see from like a cell phone camera equipment with the transmissions, with their little radios on their camera equipment, and they're all mic'd up and stuff like that. So this is the normal like ground background noise. They call it the floor, the noise floor. So this is what you would see generally You see a few signals popping up here and there, but that are jumping up above the noise floor, but nothing significant whatsoever was coming back. So that was during the test with the small Tesla coils. Then they fire up the big bad boy. All right. And this is where I was talking about. See, it builds up enough electricity of enough of a charge in this coil going up through this coil here and then into the, I don't know what you call this piece on the top. It's got a name, I know, but I don't know. I don't know what you call it. But anyway, you see it's grounding itself through this rod that they drove in the ground. Okay. And so this is putting all that electricity into the ground and grounding it. So that's where it's discharging. Now sometimes it just zaps off into the air and dissipates, but it also is going to it's going to seek ground. And that's what it's doing right here.
I think I was so impressed by seeing that at night.
Yeah. That was so cool. Wasn't it? It was just neat watching it. I think it was just fascinating to watch the whole light show. I mean, let me stand up on the mesa and watch this. I mean, that would just be awesome. Oh, thank you. B. Davis said it's called an anode. An anode? A node? Anode?
Okay.
Is that how it's pronounced? Don't watch Expedition Bigfoot. You'll never go into the woods again. That's what Bart.
Oh, gee.
It looks like you'd be called a steel donut. Okay. Hi, Kate. How you doing? I just binged Skinwalker. Cool. I know it's an interesting show, isn't it? I think it is great. So anyway, so they fired up the bad boy, and I'm close. I must not have got it quite right. Anode. I don't know. How's that pronounced? Where's Linda? She's my pronunciation teacher. Anode. Okay. I hope I got that right. Could it be a nuclear waste dump in some areas? I don't know. If it were, the government should know about it. I don't know. Pam, that's a Pam.
Would they even let them on if that was the case too?
Yeah, right. I don't know. Maybe not. Where did that go? Okay, here it is. Let's see. Very much links with mythologies in places between worlds. Kate, with that statement right there, you and I could have some interesting conversations. I have some thoughts and some beliefs in thin places between worlds when it comes to paranormal activity. I believe that not all paranormal activity is ghost related. Okay. That shows a spectrum analyzer really wigging out with all that electricity in the air. And here's the spectrum analyzer and the noise floor definitely jumping up a little bit. But they were looking for a response, and there they get their response. That right there, that big red section right here is the response. Now, the interesting thing about this is that, Linda said the same thing that B. Davis did, said anoid, just like it looks. You're making it too hard. Okay. Yeah, I know. Anoid. Okay. Yeah, I usually do. Yeah, as you well know. And a multimeter is pronounced multimeter, at least in the northeast. Okay, multimeter. I call it a multimeter, whatever. Multimeter instead of a multimeter. Multimeter. Yeah. Okay. Node is like code. Okay. And anode. Okay. Let's see. Pat asked a question. He says, Does anybody have any possible explanation about the lights appearing off the ridge that was super wild? Yes, it was super wild. No. And they still don't have an answer, as far as I know, as to what that was. So, multimeter. I guess it depends on what part of the country you're in, right? I know a lot of people I think Jan really likes listening to Travis's accent I think they're like from the same neck of the woods.
I believe they are.
Okay, so they got a pretty wild spike on that thing right here, showing in the 500K range. But that's miraculous. Now, the even more miraculous thing about that, oh, and here's the let's see. This is also some looking at some noise that it was generating right there. Pretty crazy stuff. Yeah, that's what. Who said that? Janet. Multimeter. That's what I call it. Multimeter.
Yeah.
Multimeter. Yeah. Accent is always on the second syllable. All right. When you say multimeter, it makes me think of multi-meal.
Oh,
So that thing was great. Oh, I don't want to get there yet. Oh, back up. Now, here's one of the key things that I wanted to bring out about this right here. And it was really cool. And this is where I was going to talk about what Travis had said. Cameron had indicated once they turned off the big Tesla coil, they were still getting this reading. And this reading didn't show up until they ran that Tesla coil for a little bit. But this anomaly right here, this big red area right here, and also showing up down here, showed up when the Tesla coil had run for a little bit of time, right? And here's the cool thing about it. It continued to show up after they turned the Tesla coil off. Now, did you catch that on the show? That's important. It kept on showing up after the Tesla coil was turned off and de-energized. So what does that tell us? I think what that partly tells us is that the ground did, in fact, store up some of the electricity that was being generated by the Tesla coil.
or whatever was in the ground.
Yeah, whatever. Right. Thank you for clarifying that, Jack. Thank you. Whatever was in the ground was storing up the electricity, the amperage that was being generated by the Tesla coil. That's important because it plays right into what they were talking about. About, does it act like a battery? Does it? So the ground is got something in it that is causing this or creating this to happen, which I think, now here's something that Cameron had said. And if you caught this on the show, it was, and again, one of those very important things that was said, Cameron was telling Erik, he said, no way the Tesla coil can produce that frequency. That it's too high. That Tesla coil should not be able to create that high of a frequency. But yet it did. And they recorded it.
The more I think it is, the more I think a meteor.
Yeah, I know. See, and I'm on board with that too, because I think there's something deposited. Something now. If it wasn't a UFO, if it's not a UFO down there, or some kind of a base or something like that, which I know is really reaching, then there's something in the soil, in that black stuff that they pulled up, maybe, that is able to store, and not only store, but stimulating a response. That's stimulating a response because it continued on after the Tesla coil was turned off. So what in the heck is in the ground that's creating that? That's where this all comes back to.
How long has it been down there?
Yeah, and how long? Yeah, and how long has it been down there? So if it was a meteor strike, as I was talking about, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Wanda just said that too. That's what I was saying earlier. If it was a meteor strike from millions of years ago, then it would have deposited. If it was a particular meteor that happened to be carrying some kind of, that was made up of this material that Travis had, when they analyzed that chunk of that black stuff that they were saying was gilsonite or something like that, would those substances be able to create and store this energy like that and then respond like this after the coil was turned off? and it's still responding. It's still showing up on the spectrograph. So it's interesting. And something that I caught Travis say, now this may not have anything to do with the what I'm thinking it does, but Travis had said something on the show that I caught him say, and he said when he was talking about this being produced, he said, I have no idea, or we have no idea what could produce this kind of thing. And then he stopped for just a moment and he said, at this point. And so I'm thinking, does he know, have at that point, because they do these little interviews away off camera, or not off camera, but away from the actual, we don't know if it was minutes later when you see them by themselves and they're explaining something, where it's Thomas or Travis or Erik or whoever, and they're standing with a camera by themselves and they're explaining something. It's a little, I forget what they call those, but they're off to the side and they're giving a little explanation about something. And he had said that I think he was actually in the command center when he said that, but he said at this point, or at that point.
It could be something that he knows from his background also.
Yeah, exactly. The guy's a rocket scientist. I mean, so it called an aside. Okay, thank you. But he said at that point. So he was saying that maybe they already know, but as of the show and when that aired, they don't know. I don't know. I could be completely off base with that.
Yeah. My thought was maybe he knew from what his other ventures, with NASA and everything, and he's under an agreement not to say anything at this point either.
Right, could be. You might be right. So I'm just reading. I'm going down. I'm looking at your synopsis here, Jan, because I wanted to see if I had maybe missed something. Yeah, Kate said, I wonder if the government knew about it and studied this for military use. It would be interesting. Yes, we know that with the Bigelow, when Bigelow was out there, Bigelow was doing research. He bought the property and he was doing research out there to find out what's going on. And he was, I believe, I don't know this for a fact, but I believe if we look at that, it was government supported. So he was giving some information back to the government. I believe that was the case. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody knows the true answer to that. And I know that people like Ryan Skinner and that would know the answer to that better than I would.
Well, Brandon said they were trying to get that information from the government and they would not give it out.
No, it's all been locked away. That information's all been locked away. Kate says, yes, they got government funded. So yeah, so that was Robert Bigelow, and they can't get to that. They can't get to that information, that data. So yeah, it could be. I mean, hard to say what they would have done with that. Yeah, Pam said a meteor is a space rock. I don't believe it's radioactive. I don't know. I guess I don't know if they are or not. But those are radioisotopes that barium and tatum. What the hell did I state that? Statum, Statum, statum. But that ground is definitely holding power, and there's the proof of it right there, that signal right there, or that all that coming back out. Crazy. I like what Travis. Remember, they keep talking about poking the bees or the beehive, or kicking the beehive, kicking the hive to see what happens. And I like when Travis had said something. He said, "Kick it. What happens when we zap it?" I thought that was pretty good. Yeah, kick it. What happens when we zap it? And they did. They zapped it, and this is what happened right here. It stored up energy and was still responding after they turned the Tesla coil off. Linda said, meteorites, are meteorites radioactive? No. Meteorites do contain radioactive elements, but not significantly more than any ordinary terrestrial rock. Okay. Thank you. See, that's what's awesome about this group. got some wonderful people out there that know so much more than I do. I just love the show, and I just think it's interesting. I like talking about it. So they wrapped up their experiments here and left us with, again, some really big questions as to what's really going on out there by really zapping it, as Travis said, zapping it. And it did respond in a huge way. Hi, Tom. There's Tom Burns. Maybe it's the dilithium crystals. There you go. I wonder, the mind of Gene Roddenberry to invent dilithium crystals, right? Did he invent that? Was that his concept? Let's see.
There was one piece of equipment there, Jeff, that was actually up to shut down on its own, too. I can't read my own writing right now.
That was the count. She has
random.
Yeah. Yeah, she has. Jan has that written down in here. It was the. Here it is. The quantum random number generator kept turning off. They'd turn it on. It was a program running on the computer. They would fire it up, turn it on, and then it would turn off. He turned it up back on, fired it up, and it turned off again. It kept doing it. It wouldn't stay running. It wouldn't work. So, what I was trying to look at, I went out and just, we were having a pre-show meeting, Linda, Jan and Jack and I. And so while we were talking, I Googled that, a quantum random number generator. So I Googled it to see what it was, and all I got was more scientific talk that I still didn't understand what it was. Now, it does talk about a number generator is something that is used in security for like passwords and stuff like that. It scrambles numbers so that it's completely random, that there's no patterns to be found in a number that's randomly generated. That's a random number generator, but a quantum random number generator. And what would it be used for in what they're doing? Now, I wish Travis was here because he could explain that, because he's a rocket scientist and a physicist, and he could explain that to us. But I don't understand, or Erik even could too, if we could get Erik to come on the show. Erik, if you're out there listening, would love to have you on the show sometime, Travis. But so do any of you guys know exactly what that would be used for? Help us out if you do, or if somebody can Google that and get a better explanation, a layman's explanation of what that is. A quantum random number generator.
When we read that, it was like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah, I was reading the explanation on it. Like I said, it was more scientific mumbo jumbo that I really couldn't understand anyway. And how would it be used in this scientific experiment? Okay, I don't know. So if somebody wants to check that out while we continue on. So anyway, so this was really, really cool. This I think was one of the biggest key points of the entire experiment right there, was that Cameron said the Tesla coil could not make this happen, yet it did. And the fact that it continued on after they turned the Tesla coil off is significant. So pretty wild stuff right there. What in the world would be causing that, right? So
the thing I wonder, Jeff, they're going to have to go back to Homestead too and repeat this whole thing all over again to see if there's a correlation.
Yes, thank you for reminding me of that. And you're right. They should do this again over there. I know they probably didn't, and we didn't see it, but I would be interesting, like you just said, I would be very interested to know what it does over at Homestead too.
And have a camera back at the triangle just to see if both things are going at the same time even. Yeah. And Jack, that's the point, is that they had mentioned that at the beginning of the show. When he was, I think it was when Travis was explaining this to Brandon, he had said that they wanted to see how far it would send underground like signal like this. It's on the screen right here. How far would it extend? So I was thinking that they would try to
do the experiment in the triangle and have some equipment over at Homestead too,
right,
reading it. They didn't, as far as we know, they didn't do that. And I was thinking the same thing. I'm thinking, why didn't they do that? Because, Homestead too has got in some really crazy stuff happening over there too. So, and you just did that electrical ground test at Homestead too, that proved that there was electricity going through the ground enough to light up a flashlight. So it was a third of an amp coming through the ground, 60 feet. So that's already happening. So why not have some equipment over there to see what's going on and pick that up? So maybe we'll see something like that yet in the future with the show. I'm hoping, because I would be really interested to find out.
I'm just trying to think, you got to line up the dots somehow and get them to connect.
Yep. I agree. Here we go. The Awoken one says, quantum random number generators are for solving an infinite amount of calculations that would take humans a very long time to do. Makes sense. If they want to crack a security code on there, they would use that, I guess, to try to crack a code or something. But you're right. But how would that be used in this context, in this experiment? I don't know. I really don't understand what they were doing with that for this experiment. I'm really curious. I'm going to have to try to work on getting an answer for that. I just don't know.
We're going to have a bunch of questions on July 10th, I think.
I know. And I want you guys to help me too with that, please. When we have Thomas Winterton, when he comes on the show on July 10th at 2:00, I'll keep saying that so you don't forget. July 10th, 2:00. When he comes on the show, help me with some questions for him. You guys that are interested in the show like I am, we'll put it out. Linda always does this before, about, a week before start. I forget how many days it is before the show. She'll put out a thing on the Facebook group and say, hey, if you got questions, send us your questions, because we want to know what you guys think. And we want to be able to answer, because when I have an interview, I don't always take questions during the show because I'm really trying to let them talk and find out and ask them. I ask them questions, but I'll be asking them your questions too. So get them in advance. It's much easier, because I'm going to miss if I try to watch the chat and get all your questions during the chat, I'm going to miss it.
It can go by so fast we don't see it.
And they go by. Yes. We during an interview, we end up with, 400 or 500 comments, and they go by so quickly, I can't keep up with them, and neither can Jan or Linda. So that's why we always put them on in advance. But help me out with that. Help me out with some questions for Thomas. And hopefully, if we can do a good job with Thomas, we can also get some of the other folks on the show. Thomas is great. I can't wait to talk to him. I'm just really looking forward to that show. We also have our YouTube. If you want to, for those of you on YouTube and Twitch, watching over there, you are not a part of if you're not part of our Facebook group, you can still submit those questions to us. And they are, we have a Gmail account for the show. It's Oak Island and Beyond at at gmail.com. Oak Island and Beyond, all one word, of course. Oak Island and Beyond at gmail.com. And I could probably, I don't know if I can type that in here or not so you can see it, but that is our email address. So if you have a question, you can send it there as well if you're not part of our Facebook group. So I'll let's see. At Gmail. There, I just put it in the chat there. Yeah, oh, thank you. There we go. So that's it there. If you have a question for anything, it doesn't have to be for Thomas. If you have a question or a comment you want to place, you can always send it to that email address, and then I'll get those. I try to check that as much as I can. So feel free to send a question out there as well. Okay. So, we know that Travis had mentioned that he left the ranch and he went home for a weekend or whatever for a few days. And while he was gone, he made a comment about, looking at the cameras that were attached to his trailer, which was part of what we were talking about earlier, whether or not there were cameras set up 24/7 on the ranch, and there is. He was looking at the cameras that were on his trailer from home, wherever home, I guess North Carolina. I think Jan was talking about it earlier. The fact that he's from this same general area as she is. And he was watching the cameras at some point, and he thought he saw a thunderstorm. He thought he was seeing lightning flashing and stuff like that. So when they were in the command center, he asked Erik to pull up the footage from the regular cameras first to see that time frame. It was like, I don't know what time of the day it was. I can't remember what time it was, but he asked them to pull it up, and they were looking at the regular cameras that were around the because they're much better camera quality cameras. He asked Erik to pull them up. Erik did, and they did not see any. They saw a storm, rolling in, the dark clouds and stuff like that, but they didn't. And they saw the winds, the wind blowing dust around and stuff like that, but they didn't see any lightning. So they're asking, well, what the heck did you see? And he said, well, pull up the camera on my the recording of the cameras on my trailer. Let's look at that. And so they did. And he goes, yeah, that's the camera right there. And they're running it. And again, they didn't see any lightning. So Travis is scratching his head, wondering, what in the world did I see when I was watching this remotely from home, on his computer or whatever? What the heck was he seeing? While this was taking place, they saw a UAP, and that's what I'm getting ready to show next. Now, these pictures, I know if you're looking at this on an iPad or a phone or something.
We've got another camera that they pulled up, if I remember correctly, too.
Yeah, they did. And they were in here. The pictures are better. This is the worst of the bunch that I grabbed a couple. There was quite a few. And this was the worst of the bunch, but I pulled up this one right here. And this right here, this little speck you see right here is actually the UAP that they picked up. And right here behind it, and again, I know it's almost impossible for you to see this, but right here behind it, except for Janet, I think said she was watching this on her big screen TV. You can see a little bit of a tail on it right there. Okay. Just a little speck of a tail on it right there. But that was where it was coming down. They showed it like moving, through some clouds, and then all of a sudden it was coming down at a steep angle. This is one of that steep angle where it was coming down. And there's a little blob. There was a close up of it as it came down. Yeah, it was a head scratcher for sure. It came down at a pretty steep angle, and it was coming down pretty rapidly. And then all of a sudden it kind of stopped, and it kind of wiggled around a little bit and kind of hovered in a little area, and then it shot off. And Travis said that the speed of that thing moving, not only when it was coming streaking downward at an angle and then shooting off, was definitely not a drone. It was not an airplane because it was hovering, and it was not a helicopter because they would have seen that's not a helicopter. That right there in that picture, that's not a helicopter. So what the heck was it? Okay. And
Jeff, did they say where the camera was pointing at? I did not catch that.
No, I didn't either. Now, my thinking was that they were looking in the direction of the same area where they see the reflectivity of the ridge and the light anomalies over the ridge. I was thinking it was off in that direction. So that would be the west northwest.
Right. I didn't catch.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And I was more curious. Okay, where is this? And has it happened before there? Like that.
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know why I get that impression, because that's just me saying that. I don't think that they had. I'm thinking west northwest of the let's say the Homestead 1, where the command center is. So west northwest, I think, somewhere in that direction, northwest, over that edge of the ridge right there. I think, and again, I'm not sure on that, so don't hold me to that. Maybe I'll have to watch that episode again. That's what Barb just said. I need to watch this episode again.
I missed it. I missed it completely. I thought maybe somebody else, or if they even said it all where they coming from.
Barb said, these UAPs look like weather balloons to me. Yeah, they do resemble a weather balloon, but weather balloons don't move like that. But you're right. They do. They resemble a blob or a circle that's constantly changing shape That's what it looks like. And it could be because of the camera, but it looks like you're right, like a balloon that's not completely full, and yet it's changing shape all the time and fluctuating its shape. So let's see. Oh, I was just reading some of the chat here. What did Tom say? Computers turn everything they measure into numbers. Yes. And ones and zeros. Could they be using a quantum number generator to determine, let me bring this up, to determine if there are any numerical signatures or patterns present in whatever they are monitoring? Just a thought. That's a great thought, Tom.
That's a great thought.
You might be, that's the best explanation that I could think of for it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm going to have to, get a way to get an answer to that question. Cause I'm really interested in what the answer to that is. Yeah, that's a great explanation, Tom. You could be right. I'm definitely, that's definitely the best I've heard on that. So Tom, I'm going to have to get you on the show one of these days. You're going to have to join Jack and I up here.
It'd be fun, Tom.
Yes, it would. It would be fun. I think you would make a great guest to come on the show sometime. So anyway, so there's another shot of it, and this is when it was actually, it had streaked down, and then it kind of wobbled around in one little spot there, kind of hovering for a moment before it streaked off. And that's when this picture was taken, as when it was kind of moving around and coming back to the left and moving off to the right. And a little bit, it was kind of not staying stationary in one spot, but it was not descending or ascending. It was staying in one level area, just kind of bobbling around there a little bit. And then it streaked off. And there you can see, look at that. Look at that tail it was leaving. Now, was it going through the clouds, and that's why you see the streak right here? Probably because there was a storm building up at the time.
Right.
And what was it doing? Was it collecting energy from the storm? And over Skinwalker Ranch, where it would be a good place to collect energy? That's something that Thomas said. And that's when I was saying earlier that I pointed at the TV and I said, yes, Thomas, that's exactly what I was thinking too. That if the ranch is a place that is creating all of this energy and it's storing it up and it's doing whatever with all this energy, and if a UAP needed energy to recharge itself or whatever, because I believe UAPs use gravity, the anti-gravity, to be able to maneuver. I think that's what their propulsion system is, anti-gravity in some way. How else is it going to move like that? Because there's no other propulsion system. There's no jets. There's no propellers. There's no anything that we know of as propulsion system. So it would need to regenerate, maybe, that if it doesn't have dilithium crystals, then it's going to need to antimatter converter. It's going to need to regenerate in some way. So what better place to go than somewhere that is creating power in the ground, and it can absorb that in some way? I don't know. Is that crazy? I don't know. But that's what Thomas was saying, and I agree with him. And what other good place would you get that energy? In a storm cloud, right? In a thunderstorm cloud. All that electricity is up there, and there it is right there in the clouds, and it's streaking across, and that's when it left that tail right there streaking across. And now that tail, that movement just could be that because it was passing through the cloud. It's not because it was jet propulsion and it's leaving a what do they call that? A chemtrail, a vapor trail. Thank you. It's not leaving a vapor trail, I don't think, but it's leaving a trail of some sort. But everywhere it moved, if you notice that, I was trying to capture that. I was taking these pictures and I'm trying to capture that. And that was the best one I got, was this one right here showing that. Anyway, what do you guys think about that? Am I completely the flux capacitor? Am I completely off base of that? Is that just an absolutely insane idea that I had, or that Thomas was saying too, that, this thing is going to they need to maybe regenerate at some point. And what better place to do that than a place that is having all this power weirdness going on in the first place? I don't know. How crazy is that? I don't know. You guys tell me.
It's got to be, because we've had the same thing before with the cow. We had an object right above the cow.
Yes. Yes. And they see them here all the time. And it's usually when they're kicking the hornet's nest is when they see something like this show up. Now, this one wasn't because, well, it was a few days after they had done the Tesla coil experiment, because Travis had said this was right after he left the ranch and went home. And he went home right after they finished that experiment. And he was checking on his camera, and this was picked up just a day or two later. Yeah, drones can't move that fast.
No.
That's not a drone. He said this one here is when it streaked off. And you can see that trail behind it. Whoops, I'm on the wrong screen. That trail right there behind it. Here's the object, and here's the trail that it's leaving as it streaked off.
What do you think? 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, like 1,000 miles an hour. You're right. That's what Travis was saying. And I wasn't there. So I mean, you could see it because it came down and it kind of went around a little bit and then took off. And I mean, when it took off, it took off. It was gone. I mean, it's a UAP, folks, because it's unidentified. We don't know what it was. And even when they check the transponders, which they always do when they pick up. Now, of course, they didn't see this one live, but he can go back and that date and time stamp, and he can look and see what was happening in there. They always check that kind of stuff. So if it had a transponder on, then he would have picked it up. He would know that it was some sort of a helicopter or something like that. So high-tech spy drone? Maybe. So, and with all the information that's coming out now on with the UAPs and the release of the government, we got that statement out right here. I've got my copy of it, and I've been reading through it. Got it right here. 9 pages was all we got in the preliminary assessment of unidentified aerial phenomena. Now, with the government already admitting with this document right here saying that they are real, we don't know what they are, but they are there. That adds a lot more validity to this right here, doesn't it?
It'd be interesting to see if they come out with more also.
They will. That's called the preliminary. So there will be more forthcoming. But that adds to this right here even more so now. The Tic Tac video, all that has been shown to be real. It wasn't made up. It was captured by Navy pilots. They don't know what it is. At least that's what they're telling us, that they do not know what it is. Houston, Texas, Dave. I was throwing Reese's Pieces and ET heading home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Somebody who asked that question, Pam. Any Navy jet pilots out there that might have witnessed this? If we have any on the show, I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to have you on. And even airline pilots have seen crazy stuff like this too. And
they had that one ship at sea that had like 12 of them around or something.
That was the Omaha, in the Omaha's task group. They were out at sea. When I was in the Navy, we were often, when we were overseas something, we were in a task group with other ships. There was always other ships around us. Not always, but quite often were there other ships around us. And so if something like that happened, all the ships would be picking it up. And which in the case of the Omaha in that test group, when you saw that video footage of them, they were surrounded by them at one point. There was about 12 or 14 of them around the whole task group. And they were stationary, moving, all kinds of different stuff. And then the one submerged and became a underwater phenomena. So unidentified underwater. I don't know what's that. That's called a it's a I forget what they call that one. But anyway, that makes this, that adds validity to this stuff right here. So you can it's a UAP because they don't know what it is. Now, it may not mean it's, extraterrestrial. It may not mean it's little aliens jumping around, but they don't know what it is. So that makes it a UAP because they don't know what it is. It's unidentified. So, but there it is, streaking off, and it's streaking off very fast from a standstill, from a hover position, then just instantly streaking off and gone, just like that. We don't have anything that we know of in our arsenal of military equipment that does that. And as far as we know, neither does China nor Russia or India or anybody else or Korea. Excuse me. So what in the heck is it? I don't know. And why would they be seen over Skinwalker Ranch so much? Again, like Thomas said, maybe they're refueling. Maybe they're refueling. There it is, I think this is the last picture I got. Yeah, it is the last picture I got. And to show that was just before it streaked off. I think this is when it was still coming down because on my screen, well, I can kind of see it on the other one. You can kind of see where it was coming down. I think that's one of the last ones I caught when it was actually coming down before it hovered and then took off the other direction. But what do you guys think? Tom Burns says, if it's extraterrestrial, I think ET stayed home. But he could have sent their version of a Mars-type explorer, which is controlled by AI. Not my first choice of a theory, but who knows? You're right.
You're right.
Maybe they came from Area 51. Yeah, maybe Wanda might be right. I don't know. Yeah, and then you're right, Barb. Barb says you can't rule out other countries testing out new technology. You're exactly right. We cannot rule that out. We just don't know. We don't know if it is another country. We don't know if it's extraterrestrial. We just don't know. That's why it's called a UAP, because we just simply do not know what the heck it is.
The big question.
It is. It's a huge question. But we have documentation now from the U.S. government that says we don't know what they are either. Now, they haven't admitted to having anything from Area 51. They haven't admitted to having anything that they got from Roswell or anything like that. So that's still up in the air. I mean, that was never come out. And it's one of those types of things that if they did have something, let's say they did have a crashed, and here I go down a rabbit hole. If they did have some kind of a crashed alien craft and they were able to reverse engineer some of it, are they going to want to have it out in the open, and they're going to want to discuss it and let everybody know, all the other countries, Russia and China, they want to let them know? No, of course not. They want to keep it secret. They don't want them to know the technology they have, just like they're not going to want to let us know the technology that they have. So, that's the thing about Area 51. Everybody's looking at it all the time. They're going on to the perimeter as far, we're as close as they can get legally, and they're looking through binoculars and taking pictures and all this stuff. And my point is, leave them alone. If they're out there working on new technology that is going to be put into our military, then let them do it. Okay, that's my opinion. Let them do it in secret. We don't want that information to get out to other countries. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm all wet with that thinking, but leave them alone out there. Now, do we want to know if they have alien technology? Yeah, I'd like to know, but I don't know. I guess I'm, as my sister would say, I'm torn on that. I don't know. I don't know what to say on that. I'm torn. So what do you guys think? Is that a UAP, and are UAPs coming over there to refuel before they go somewhere else? I don't know. But that was an interesting show. I think it really was. Don't you think so, Jack?
I do. I think they covered a lot of different areas and came up with a lot of theories. Now, somebody mentioned when they that showed up on radar, but they've had that before where their transponders haven't picked up anything like that at all. So whatever it is, it's like a stealth bomber or whatever, you can't pick it up on a radar.
Right.
What kind of technology, possibly.
Right. Now, those ones that they had, and I was watching this little show. I wish I could think of this guy's name. Yeah, the government does have many secrets, that's for sure. there was, and I can't think of this gentleman's name, but he's a UFO guy. He used to work for the government, and now he's always talking about UAPs and stuff. And I was just watching this little like a live show or a podcast that he was in the other day, and they were talking about some of this stuff. And he was talking about the fact that during that Omaha incident on the USS Omaha, when they had 12 or 14 of them around there, they had captured evidence in several different ways. They had the radar from the CIC. They had radar. They had pictures from the radar, actual video footage of the radar. They had night vision. I think it was night vision or heat. It might have been infrared footage as well of them. That's when you see the one out there, and then you see the one slowly drop down. It called splash because they said it went in under the water. And they also had regular video where he went out with a camera. Somebody did. They call them the Viper team, Team Viper or Viper team or something like that. Went out with the actual camera and took regular video footage of it too, so you could see the lights that they were emitting. And they were showing two, and they were kind of moving. They were just above the water, and they were moving. And they moved in, so they were vertical, one above the other. And then he came back a little bit. He kind of drew back a little bit, and you could see an actual what I thought was a plane, because you could see the blinking light. I had a red light and I had a blinking light on it as it was moving by. And then, then he went and he didn't pay attention to that. So the guy, whoever was filming this, must have known that was a plane, and he went back to focusing on the two anomalies, the two light anomalies. And he basically forgot about that plane going across. So it did look like a plane of some sort. But that was just.
The one thing I would like to really see him do now, that we've seen this episode, is bring back that retired colonel that they had on a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
And pick his brain a little bit. Let's see what we'll see what he knows more of.
Right. You're right. That would be a good idea. That was let's see. I've got
2 episodes ago, maybe.
Yeah, let me see here.
I cannot remember his name. But I thought he would be an interesting one now to have on, that they have this information.
Yep. Yeah, he would. Yeah, I was just going to find his picture. Let's see. Because I got his name on here. Where in the heck is it?
It was right at the beginning of one of the shows.
Yeah. Where is my picture of him now? So 7. Was it? It wasn't on 7. It wasn't episode 7. I'm flipping through because you guys wouldn't believe the storehouse of photographs I've got. I've got so many pictures and stuff now. It's crazy. Not in 6. So it had to be 5 or 4 then. Maybe it's 4.
I don't remember the episode, Jeff, but
yeah. Oh, 4 was when they had the rabbi out there. Oh, and that's when they saw the head show up.
Right. I think he was after the rabbi, if I remember correctly.
That's what I thought. Oh, here he is. Oh, that's not the picture with his name on it. Where's it? Oh, there it is. All right, now I got it. Colonel John Alexander. That guy right there.
Right. He would be the one I would like to have back on and say, okay, this has happened. What do you think? Have you seen anything like this? Or, just to get.
And he worked with Bigelow. He worked with Robert Bigelow's team.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. Colonel John Alexander, retired U.S. Army. Yeah, he would be he'd be an interesting guy to talk to. I'd love to.
Oh, he'd be a great guest for us.
Might have to reach out to see if we can reach out to him and bring him on the show. Wow. Yeah, interesting guy for sure. Yeah, as a B. Davis said, you guys need to get him on the show and pick his brain. Yep. Yeah, we do. Yeah, he might not be able to answer. That's what Kate said. He might not be able to answer. So, but yeah, that would be Fravor. I don't know. B. Davis, Commander Fravor. I don't know who that is. Yeah, Barb said they want to, but without the disclosure, they want to avoid mass hysteria. And you're right. And I think that's why they're trickling out information, quite honestly, to us. I've been thinking about that over the course of, how things have been trickling out here lately over the last year or so. They've been letting out this, letting out that, letting out the video footage of and you can imagine, if there was somebody that was, when I was in the Navy, if you would have went around with a cell phone or some kind of camera and you would have been taking video in the CIC or I was a radioman, so in the Radio Shack, it's top secret. You are not allowed to take pictures and expose that out on the internet, we didn't have the internet back then, but you were not allowed to do that. And for somebody to have doing that nowadays, and you don't hear about that person being court-martialed and thrown in federal penitentiary, then they must be letting it trickle out.
Yes, because I think it's on Ancient Aliens that I've seen where they said when they first started working in 45, 46, that everything they had to sign an agreement, they could never talk, not even tell their wives about it or everything else like that, if I remember correctly.
Yep. I knew somebody who was, remember the Roswell incident? Quincy, they called him Quince, but Quincy was involved in that. And I forget what his rank was, but I knew a lady who, how was she? Was she wasn't his wife? She was a close friend or something, an elderly lady. She's passed away now, but she knew him. And we talked to her about that. And she said that on his deathbed, he would still not talk about it. He refused to talk about it, even on his deathbed. Because somebody asked him what he might know. Would you want to talk about it? And he said no. That man was so dedicated to the military and to the idea of why they would not talk about it that he wouldn't even talk about it on his deathbed. So he knew a lot of stuff because he was involved in the Roswell. He was involved in it. Quince or Quincy, I can't remember. I was trying to remember exactly what his name was. They called him Quince, I think, but I think it was Quincy. And he was a high-ranking military officer at the time. But anyway, Kate says, think about it. We now have high-end video on our hands. It's not easy to debunk. Right, I know. And that's what I'm saying about whoever took those videos on and I don't know if that was on the Omaha or not, but in the CIC and then the video outside and then taking the infrared and then letting that out into the military, out into the public. Those people would have found out who did it. They would have found out who did that, and the person would have been in a lot of trouble. So, that they must be allowing it to trickle out. That's the only thing I can think about on that anyway. All right. So I'm about ready to wrap it up, folks, man. I was talking to Jack and I thought, I don't know about tonight, maybe an hour. And here we are again.
2 hours or just about 2 hours.
It's about 2 hours. I talk way too much, folks, don't I?
Well, I'm helping you along here with this. Hey.
But this episode was it was one episode. We only did one episode tonight, but it was so interesting. It was really a good one. I really, because somebody had said it was, I don't know, Janet or Wanda or somebody had said it earlier that, so many more, it's got some answers, but so many more questions now.
And they went in depth on some things tonight.
Yeah. And they really did. Yeah. They got deeper into some stuff, which I thought was cool. Yeah. Kate, it was Viper. Yeah, exactly right. But, and I tell you, folks, and you guys hear me say this all the time, but I love the interaction and I love putting up your questions and your comments on the screen here because that's why we do this. That's why I have fun with just being able to come on here and talk with you guys about this and get your thoughts and your input on it. And the thoughts and the input are recorded and, what we've talked about here. So it's out on YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff. And anybody can watch it out there. At JFree906 on YouTube and Twitch, JFree906 out on Twitch TV. If you want to go out there and check it out, feel free. But really, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. And we've really enjoyed it. I always have a great time coming on and doing this and talking about these shows that we really enjoy. Don't forget, we got, again, I know I've already mentioned it several times, but Thomas Winterton coming up on Saturday, July 10th at 2:00. We're off this weekend. This is going to be the July 4th weekend coming up. There's no show on Saturday. Maybe if I get completely bored, maybe I'll do a surprise thing and come on and just talk about, just talk about whatever anybody, I don't know. We'll see. It depends on what's going on this weekend. I know that a lot of people go out of town for the 4th, so I'm not expecting. That's why we didn't really want to do a regular show, because everybody's going to be gone. But maybe I'll get bored and I'll just jump on and we'll talk about something. We'll see what happens. But enjoy your 4th of July, folks. Have a great time, for our nation and our founding fathers and creating this wonderful country that we have here. And I know that we have viewers from other countries, but you guys have your own, like 4th of July or Independence Day or whatever. But anyway, enjoy your 4th of July, and we will be back on let's see, July 7th. I don't have anything written on July 7th. So that's another Skinwalker Ranch episode we'll be talking about on July 7th. And that'll be number 9. Episode 9. Yeah, that'll be episode number 9. We'll talk about that. And then Thomas Winterton on the 10th. And then Christian Roper is coming. He's going to join us. Christian Roper was on the very first Beyond Oak Island. He was the, I'm going to say young man because I'm an old man. So I'm going to say a young man that was on, that came on, was talking about Lafitte. Now, he's been working on a lot of really cool stuff. He's got his own documentary he's working on, and he's working with, I think, the History Channel about some new research that he's been doing. So we're going to talk to him on the 13th. We got Court Lindahl coming up on, you guys, if you, in our Facebook group, if you've heard of Court knows that man has been researching all kinds of stuff, not only Oak Island, Templars, Civil War gold, rebel gold. I mean, the guy is just a phenomenal researcher. He's going to be on with us. That's on a Wednesday night at 7:30 on the 21st. And Brian Abbott is coming on. Brian Abbott was the man who was not only on Beyond Oak Island, he was out with Marty Lagina on Lake Michigan when they were looking for the silver and gold that was thrown overboard that they were going to hopefully come back and get later off that island.
It's not Snake Island.
I know. I was going to say Snake Island. It's not Snake Island.
It's not Snake Island,
but anyway, and he also was the guy who sent the scanner down into 10X and they scanned 10X. Remember that on Oak Island? That's the guy, Brian Abbott. He owns a company that does that, and he's going to be on with us on the 28th. That's a Wednesday, the 28th at 7:30. Then we're going to start rolling into some August stuff. We're going to get back into Oak Island and all that. So hope you guys will join us for all of that. And remember, if you guys are out on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button for us. It helps us out a ton. And we also have the Patreon if you want to help and contribute to the show. We'd appreciate that as well. We have a Patreon, JFree906. All right. Thank you guys for being here. We love it. And we hope you had a good time tonight with us. And we will see you next week. All right. Bye-bye now.